Alright guys, and welcome back to Pokemon TCG HQ. I'm now bringing you top 4 of the Athena Games League Cup between Jonathan Ellis and Jack Snell, both playing Volcanion EX's decks, both seen already on the recording, so hopefully we're in for a good game, so we'll just go straight into it, I believe. So yeah, Jack's on the right hand side, Jonathan is on the left. So with this matchup, it really comes down to whether you could stream knockouts, I believe, because you're hitting for weakness, in particular using Volcanion EX because it's a dual type, fire and water, but it's also weak to water as well. It really comes down to whether you've got those multiple attackers really able to stop your opponent from getting that return KO. Of course, you can play the Ho-Oh, which doesn't have that water weakness, which is sort of really good for these fire decks nowadays. But with just a couple of steam ups, or if you use Turtonator, you can, with one steam up, using Bright Flame, doing 160 plus 30 for the steam up ability, you can still take the one hit KO there anyway. So we see that Jack does start, it does attach the Fire Energy to the active Volcanion, does Ultra Ball for a Tapu Lele. So if he does have a Pokemon in hand, he could go for the turn 1 Kiawe here, sort of setting himself up. Yep, it looks like he does, for turns 2 and onwards. So he does just play the Kiawe down, grabs 3 energy. There's no point in actually attaching 3 or 4 energy to the Volcanion. And that does end his go. So already turn 1, he has 4 energy on his side of the board. Pretty ideal for Jack's starting turn, I guess. Jonathan here, he does play the Max Elixir down, sees the Fire Energy in the first 2 cards and just attaches to his bench Volcanion. Does also Tapu Lele. So either there, he's likely to be looking for a natural draw supporter, as he has just taken a Professor Sycamore to discard his hand and draw a fresh set of 7 new cards. So ideally here, what he's going to be doing is actually trying to potentially get a Volcanion and set up multiple attackers. Yeah, so that way he can actually then start to put himself in a position where he has multiple attackers, being able to hit Jack's side of the board with full weakness, as it were. So he does Nest Ball for the Volcanion, so it does look like that is the play he is going to be going for. He does have another Ultra Ball, so it looks like he's actually considering discarding a Volcanion and a Fire Energy. Possibly getting that Ho-Oh that I mentioned, just as I mentioned earlier. So now he potentially is trying to get that attacker just so that he can not be hit for weakness. Does have a Max Elixir as well, so he's 2 for 2 so far. So long as he has a Fire Energy in hand, there you go. He does retreat into the baby Volcanion. The steam up's not too important, purely because he doesn't actually need to deal too much damage to this Volcanion. He's not going to be looking to take those KOs. He's really mainly going to be trying to go for those knockouts on those big EXs. So Jack here has another Tapu Lele, goes for the Guzma. So it looks like he might be targeting down that Volcanion EX that is on Jonathan's side of the board. So he does Guzma up the Volcanion EX. He does take his first 2 prizes with Volcanic Heat, dealing 260 damage, as it were, and putting himself ahead on the prizes. So Jonathan, I might have called you James again. I do apologise. I'm really sorry. But Jonathan has end his opponent down to 4 and himself to 6. So Jonathan will probably continue trying to set up multiple attackers here. Does get a Fury Belt on the Ho, which is really important, which means that it's a lot harder for Jack to knock it out. Jack here isn't actually able to use Volcanic Heat again because of the rules of that attack, where it can't attack the following turn. So we'll need to find a way to retreat and actually potentially use Power Heat to start attacking other things. So Jonathan does go for the Oranguru with an Ultra Ball. It's likely, as I said, he's just going to sort of deal the 20 damage with Power Heat, or potentially a little bit more if necessary, and start trying to power up another attacker. But it doesn't even look like he's needed to. He did just Oranguru into a Max Elixir. Now has 4 energy on that Ho-Oh, and deals 180 damage with, or 190 damage with Phoenix Burn. So taking that revenge KO, or return KO, not revenge. And now it's really Jack on the back foot because Ho-Oh doesn't lose any energy. He can't use Phoenix Burn again, but he can just sort of retreat and sort of use that Volcanion to power heater energy back onto his side of the board. So here Jack's playing that Nest Ball, is likely to get another attacker, potentially that Turtonator. Oh, he goes for his own Ho-Oh, which is just as good, if not better, of course, as I already mentioned, because it doesn't have that water weakness. Plays a second Ultra Ball. He's going to get another attacker, potentially a Volcanion, because he occasionally might need to use Steam Up to take the knockouts. For example, on this Ho-Oh, which has an extra 40 HP from the Fighting Fury belt. So there's free energy already in this card, so he might not necessarily want to Steam Up as such. But he will start to get energy attachments onto the board. Has a Fire Energy and the Fighting Fury belt attached to his Ho-Oh. Benches the Staryu and removes the tools from Jonathan's side of the board and just power heaters for 20. Attaches the Fire Energy, 1 to the Volcanion, 1 to the Ho-Oh. And it now is Jonathan's turn. So what can Jonathan do here? He does have Guzma in hand, which is interesting. I'm not too sure he has any Fire Energies. Doesn't look like he does, but he does play energy retrieval, which could be quite important. But he does Guzma up that Volcanion and immediately retreats back into the Ho, taking another 2 prizes. So this could be quite big here, because Jack will need to hit his own Max Elixir and an energy attachment for turn for him to be able to get a return KO with his own Ho-Oh. So which would be dealing 190 damage and actually knocking out the Ho-Oh because it's already got 20 damage on it. He does use Scorched Earth to draw 2 cards and Ultra Balls away a switch, and can't really tally sheets. Oh, he's just Ultra Balled for the Tapu Lele and the end. There you go there. So he does play an end to slow down Jonathan's side of the board. Really hoping he can potentially try and hit that Max Elixir and energy for the turn, but he's already attached. So there is an energy and a Fighting Fury belt, but he knows he's not going to be knocked out. So he retreats back into the Volcanion, attaches Fury belt to Tapu Lele and power heaters to the Ho and to a Tapu Lele. Jonathan there does actually from his there you go, and there's the game, because he does actually get the Tapu Lele from his Ender 2 plus the top deck, putting himself to 3 cards, but he also has a Rangaroo as well. Gets the Tapu Lele for the Guzma for game 1. Yeah, so generally these games tend to finish quite quickly because you're hitting for weakness, you're doing big damage quite quickly and quite early. So yeah, and James is although going second with one of the few decks currently that doesn't mind actually going second, because you can start either power heatering or with things like Max Elixir, there might not be too many issues in terms of actually getting an attack off. So it'll be interesting to see how game 2 goes. I'm assuming Jack will be going first once again. And there's the cut from Jack's side of the field, so we'll just have a quick look, see what Jonathan can try and start open with, and same with Jack. There's the 7 cards each. There's the basic, 3 basics for Jonathan. Not 2. There is 3. I think there might have been a Tapu Lele as well. And once again, Jack does get the ideal starter in Staryu. He does play 2, so it's not unheard of. And there you go. So he does Ultra Ball, Scorched Earth, and a Sycamore. If he has another Pokemon in his hand, it does look like he might go for the turn 1 Kiawe again. There's the Ho-Oh. So Ultra Balls for the Ho-Oh. He does have a Max Elixir in hand as well. He does have a Sycamore, so it looks like he might be having to play that, or he might be Kiaweing this turn. So let's go for the Kiawe. He's very likely to play that Max Elixir anyway, just to get cards out of his hand, although it might not be the best target in Tapu Lele, but some things you just have to do. And then plays the Kiawe for 4 energy onto that Ho-Oh, threatening that those KOs the following turn. But it looks like Jack doesn't have a Guzma in his hand. It looks like it is a Sycamore. I'm not too sure what the other card is. But Jonathan here looks like he's steamed up with that Volcanion on the bench. He's just putting that Fire Energy just so he knows what he's done there. Attached to the active Volcanion. Tapu Lele for a Sycamore. Yeah, I think they're just clarifying that he did steam up. So he will just be playing Sycamore, it looks like. There's a Sycamore. There's a couple of extra Pokemon. There's another Volcanion. And second Steam Up. Plays a Max Elixir, hits. So now he's actually taking the knockout on this Staryu. Again, it just essentially forces Jonathan to be playing that 7 prize game. It's likely that Jack will have to eventually go with a Volcanion at one point, so it sort of levels itself back. But he does just take the knockout on that Staryu. Looks like a Turtonator in hand. Yep, and then there's a Sycamore, so it looks like Jack might be going for the knockout on this active Volcanion here as well, also bringing him into the 7 prize game. Not much sometimes that you can really do about it. So there's the manual attachment to the Turtonator. Does bench the Volcanion, knowing he will need to use it as well, and takes his first prize, leveling up the game. So here, Jonathan will be looking to attach to that active Volcanion and trying to get 2 more fire energy so that he can actually take the knockout here. But it looks like he's not got much in his hand. He's just had to instruct for 1, and he's now doing 140 damage to that active Ho-Oh GX. But knowing that Ho-Oh GX is unable to actually use Phoenix Burn back-to-back turns without having to use a Guzma, that Volcanion is likely to be safe and not in too much trouble at all. So Jack continues attaching manually to that Turtonator GX. Does Field Blower that Fighting Fury Belt on the Volcanion. Let's just see here. So he does have the Tapu Lele. Does look like he's gone for the Guzma. It all went very quickly, so we'll confirm it shortly. Yep. There's an Ultra Ball as well. So Ultra Ball's a Staryu and Fire Energy away. Just to get a Staryu so that he does have the Guzma. And can free retreat straight back into that Ho-Oh. It does look like that's the play here. He does only have 2 cards left in hand, so there's the Guzma. Guzma's up the other Volcanion, retreats back into that Ho-Oh and Phoenix Burns for 2 more prizes. So the situation here is that Jack does have the Turtonator, and all he needs is 1 Fire Energy to be able to, well, 2 Fire Energy. He needs actually quite a bit. He needs the Fire Energy and a Volcanion and another Fire Energy to be able to take the knockout here after Jonathan adds just what he's done. So actually take the knockout with a Volcanic Heat. So you see this game is going very quickly. He's just top decked the Volcanion, so if he can draw Fire Energy off this Sycamore to 7, which he looks like he's missed. So unless he can now Ultra Ball for the Starmie, if there is one left, we saw him discard 1 already. He would have taken it very quickly if it was there. So it's possible he might have 1 prized. So he does actually just grab the Tapu Lele. So it looks like Jack might not be able to actually take the knockout here. Giving Jonathan the chance to restabilize, set up some energy on his board, on his bench, I should say. Yeah, so it's a really interesting turn of events currently. So I'm not too sure. He does still retreat into the Turtonator GX. He might Shell Trap just to deal a little bit of damage for now. But he actually has decided to Nitro Tank GX. So he's attached 3 energy to his Volcanion and 2 more to his Tapu Lele. He's just to switch into the Oranguru and then free retreats back into the Volcanion, so he can knock out this Turtonator. Does play the energy retrieval, so attaches 1 to the Volcanion. And in the situation here right now, Jack does have a bit of a liability on his bench with that Staryu. Because he will be able to get the return KO because he has that bench Volcanion, which will be hitting for weakness. But because he has that Staryu on his bench, a Guzma and a Fire Energy steam up from another Volcanion if Jonathan can actually get it, could give him the game in game 2 and actually win him the series. But Jack here does end his opponent down to 1. He does have the Oranguru out, of course, so the Instruct is available to him. Does free retreat to the Volcanion EX, attaches a Fury Belt to the other Tapu Lele, and now He's going to need quite a lot here. Does instruct for 2. Does have the Guzma, but he just doesn't have that Volcanion. If he had that Volcanion, or if he hit that Max Elixir, because that Tapu Lele would have been attached to, and he could have Guzma'd out that Staryu for the knockout. As such, he's missed it. He's now thinking, what can he do? Because Jack will still need to find a way to Guzma out something else and retreat into it. So he does just retreat into the Hoa and passes. There's the Tapu Lele, and it looks like there's the Guzma. Free retreat into the Volcanion EX again, and taking his last prize for game 2. So that levels up the series to 1-1. Both players playing it very well. Bit unfortunate there by on Jonathan's behalf. I really am sorry, but in my mind I keep calling you James. But I'm trying my best not to, because of course you're Jonathan. So apologies if my tongue does slip and I say James at any point yet again. I keep worrying because I think I have, but I might not have. We'll see. So this time for game 3, it looks like Jonathan will obviously be starting first for the first time of the three games of the series against Jack. So it'll be interesting to see if maybe he can go for a turn 1 Kiawe, applying that pressure nice and early. So it does look like he starts a Turtonator. Does have Sycamore, Max Elixir in hand, a couple of Fire Energies. He does need another Pokemon. He doesn't draw it, unfortunately. So there's a Fire Energy attachment, Fury Belt, and then a Sycamore. 2 energies, 2 Sycamores, and a Max Elixir. He's got a couple of Nest Balls now, which allows him to bench that Ho-Oh. If he has a Max Elixir, start powering up that second attacker, as it were. It does have free energy in his hand as well. There's plays the Max Elixir, hits it. So now he's got 2 energy on his side of the board, and he's just passed. Not much else you can do. Jack here can still potentially go for that turn 1 Kiawe. So he goes to the Scorched Earth engine to draw 2 cards. Maybe potentially still actually going for that turn 1 Kiawe, as it were, because Jonathan's board isn't too threatening right now. So if he does actually decide to go for this turn 1 Kiawe, it's not a bad decision at all, because he does have another draw supporter in that N. But it looks like he's just gone for the Ho-Oh from his Ultra Ball. Does play the N. So I guess sometimes with a turn 1 Kiawe going second, it doesn't seem like you're gaining as much tempo as you'd like. So I'm assuming Jack here will be looking to try and hit some energies, trying to get some Max Elixirs going. But it doesn't look like he's drawn into even any energy, unfortunately. He does have that Staryu. And the Fury Belt he attaches to a Ho-Oh. Couple of Field Blowers, so he Field Blows away his own Scorched Earth to stop Jonathan from being able to use that. Yeah, unfortunately he's just drawn a little bit badly. There's a Elixir again in Jonathan's hand, so he plays it once again. Hits it, second card in. Does still have only have that Turtonator active. Does have 2 Tapu Lele there, so however he can't really get enough energy onto that Ho-Oh to be able to take knockouts. So it does just steam up. Get Tapu Lele's for a Sycamore. So I assume he will just continue trying to build his board, set himself up for turn 3, turn 4, turn 5 knockouts where possible. Finds the Float Stone, which is quite important. Gets a Volcanion and an Oranguru. And that essentially will be a pretty good setup board here. Does go for Ho-Oh's first attack, dealing a 50 damage snipe. Takes the KO on the Staryu. Potentially seeing how important it can be just to sort of retrieve energy and get them back. There's the Field Blower again for a second one. And a Sycamore there from Jack. So he really needs to start getting some energy on the board now. Really hit those Max Elixirs, get some energy into hand. Otherwise, Jonathan could just run away with it and just steamroller through his deck. There's the attachment to the Turtonator. There's a steam up from the Volcanion. And he just decides to actually Nitrojank GX, just free energy back onto the board. for that Ho-Oh. Not the most ideal turn, because you only tend to want to use Nitro Tank GX for the maximum value of 5 fire energy. But when needs must, this is what Jax had to do. And it's back over to Jonathan, so now he can potentially attach to the active Ho, steams up, and can actually take the knockout on this Turtonator. He does play an N, so you might as well play those cards nice and early to at least get 5 cards. But as always, he does have that Oranguru, which is really helpful in situations where you're taking big early EX and GX prizes. Draws himself into a pretty good hand, I believe. There's another Volcanion, there's a Guzma, so he can potentially Guzma up another target the next turn. But he's just going to Phoenix Burn for the knockout, dealing 210 damage, taking knockout on that Turtonator. So Jack here doesn't send up the Ho-Oh. It's quite surprising. There's the 4th energy attachment to the Ho-Oh GX. He does need to knock out that Ho-Oh. Attaches the Float Stone. He's currently doing 190 damage, which is enough for the knockout. And he does just Phoenix Burn, so he's now down to 4 prizes. There's only 1 energy on Jonathan's side of the board, but he has access to Nitro Tank GX now, with at least 4 energy in the discard, because that Ho was knocked out. There's the Ultra Ball. So potentially that N might have hurt Jack quite a lot, because he didn't actually get a chance to play a supporter. There's the baby Volcanion, just in case another card goes down. But it does look like Jonathan will be looking to, he does play the Sycamore, looking to Nitro Tank GX here. Could potentially switch into something else, but he does just Nitro Tank. Attaches 2 energy, grabs the 4. 2 energy to the Volcanion. And there's a 5 energy, so where is he? He's looking to either consider attaching to the bench, other bench Volcanion. Then he still needs 2 steam ups to knock out that Ho-Oh. Or if he attaches 2 to the active Turtonator, he only needs 1. He's just gauging the idea whether he'd actually get knocked out. So Jack to knock out this active Turtonator will need to switch, use a switch, and then free retreat back into the Ho-Oh to knock out that threat. But whether he has it in hand, again, in my mind, a lot of players will tend to do this quite quickly. But of course, he's probably having good thinking where it makes sure that he isn't overextending and really sort of considering his plays before he actually does stuff like this. He does play the switch. No, there it is. He does switch into Volcanion with 3 retreats back into the Ho-Oh and is now ahead in terms of prizes. Can Jonathan take the knockout here? Oh, of course he has the Fury Belt, which is really problematic for Jonathan. He looks like he might have to end here, try and slow Jack's board down, because if Jack just gets access to a Guzma, he's actually able to win the game because he has a free retreat Staryu on the bench now as well. So Jonathan does have the N in hand. There's the double steam up, so he's just setting up poke damage on that Ho-Oh. Does Ultra Ball as well. I guess he's just trying to thin his deck so he can end himself to a better hand, as it were. Does Unstruct for 1. Yeah, it looks like he's just going to play the N. Hope Jack isn't able to draw a Tapu Lele or a Guzma. Deal sort of the 80 damage to his Ho-Oh and then pull it in range of a knockout from the Volcanion. There's the end of 3. There's a Field Blower. Again, doesn't change too much, but he does actually remove the Field Blower from the Fighting Fury Belt, which means he's able to take the knockout. So a really big end there. And now Jack's in a really, really sticky situation. Really needs to end. He has to attach. I feel like his only way of winning is playing down his cards, playing that end, and he has to hit a max elixir of these 2 cards. If he's unable to, we'll see Jonathan will be able to win this game and win top 4 and go into the final. I think Jack's missed it. He would have played it, surely. There's the Fury Belt. He doesn't yet go down, of course, because Volcanion EX is unable to attack again because of his attack, but a Guzma knocking out the Staryu doesn't really change much. There's the steam up and instruct for 2, the switch and the retreat, and then there's the KO, guys. Yep, so Oranguru MVP, it seems, grabbing the cards that Jonathan needs whenever he wants. But really well played by both players. Jonathan does win, go into the final. Unlucky to Jack. Good run into top 4, of course. But yeah. So just so you know, this was actually the last video recorded from this Athena Games League Cup. So after a long hard day of 5 Swiss rounds, top 8, top 4, Seb Simmons was crowned the champion of this Athena Games League Cup with his unique Ho-Oh GX Salazzle GX deck. So congratulations for Jonathan as well for taking home the 2nd place with the points and the prizes that you get. So I really hope you guys enjoyed this. I've taken and spent a lot of time actually watching these videos and actually doing some commentary over them. So I do appreciate any feedback I do get, and appreciate you guys who have watched. Yeah, I really hope you guys enjoy it. So after the next big tournament, which is happening in Europe, which is the European Internationals, we'll hopefully have more League Cup action that I get a chance to watch, learn with you guys, and get these insights as well. So like I said, hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you very much, and peace.